Broadcasting to the Wizarding World since 2008.
HPANA's official Harry Potter podcast.
Official Harry Potter podcast.
This is Hogwarts Radio. This is Hogwarts Radio, episode 218 for October 21st, 2018. Hogwarts Radio is HPANA.com's podcast discussing all things Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts, and the rest of the Wizarding World. For the quickest up-to-date news on the franchise, make sure you check out HPANA.com. Hello, everyone, and this is Hogwarts Radio, broadcasting to Harry Potter fans worldwide since 2008. I'm Terrance Pinkston.
I'm Bailey Riddle.
I'm Luke Hogan.
And I'm Gretchen Rush.
Our show can be found virtually anywhere online, such as iTunes, the Google Podcasts app, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Radio Public, and other places where podcasts are aggregated.
It doesn't matter where or how you listen, just make sure to tap the subscribe button, and we guarantee you'll have a new episode each Sunday.
We also invite you to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram so you never miss an update from the show.
And that's right, don't forget, Hogwarts Radio is also on Patreon. By pledging, you'll have instant access to many benefits, including exclusive merchandise, host vlogs, behind-the-scenes planning of the show, Hogshead Radio, and much more. Visit patreon.com/HogwartsRadio to sign up today. Welcome to episode 218 of Hogwarts Radio, and according to Phenomenal Woo on Twitter, we are becoming more of a Sunday fixture than a roast dinner. I love how we're compared to food.
This is my favorite compliment we've ever gotten.
High praise.
I'm actually hungrier now.
Ditto. I mean, a roast dinner does sound really good. I don't know. Does anybody else have roast dinners on Sunday or used to?
I'm lucky if I make dinner on a Sunday.
That's really true. Hey guys, you know what else is really unsettling? J.K. Rowling's Twitter bio picture right now. Everybody go take a look at it. And it's not for the faint of heart. It's really scary. And am I the only one that is really bothered by this? I don't know why I am,
yes.
But I am.
I love it.
She's feeling festive. She's in the mood for Halloween.
Yeah, but Lucifer? I mean, I don't know.
I think it looks awesome.
Great.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, 10 points to whoever did that makeup.
Yeah, absolutely.
She did it herself, in the mornings before she goes to write,
She's doing it all month.
Right, right.
She's channeling her latest work in progress.
That is also unsettling. I don't know.
I'm going to call you out, Bailey. Earlier, Bailey was like, it took me a while. I didn't even realize that was J.K. Rowling. I said, oh, really?
Yeah, Terrance had sent this in our Slack chat a while ago, and until I pulled up the document today to see what we're talking about for the episode, I honestly had no clue it was J.K. Rowling. I wasn't paying attention to the rest of the face. I was only paying attention to the Halloween portion of the face.
I figured she's making this a permanent thing. It looks good. I mean, I think she can make it work.
Some extremist groups back in the day used to claim that Harry Potter would, it was like promoting witchcraft, and it was really turning people into Wiccans and things like that. And of course, these are the people that never read the series whatsoever, and even try to get them banned in public schools, in their libraries and stuff. There was a whole big thing about it like 10 years ago. Of course, it never went anywhere. I mean, these people were still burning the Harry Potter books like it was like a religious thing, really scary. But I don't know, I guess because I've kind of been revisiting old news stories lately, maybe the timing was coincidental where I was going over a story like that and seeing J.K. Rowling's Twitter bio picture like almost immediately after. So I don't know. But I mean, obviously the series does not promote witchcraft and wizardry. That's silly. We have a lot of news to get to. And okay, the thing with the news, we normally record our episodes on Thursday nights for a Sunday release. And the the Fantastic Beasts news cycle for the past couple of weeks likes to throw all the news on Fridays, where we're completely done with recording. We're set to release the episode. And then there's a slew of new Fantastic Beasts news that comes out. And I feel like that's what happened last week because we got all these all this new information that we didn't get to talk about.
There's been a lot of Fantastic Beasts news. It's a little overwhelming, but it's also very exciting because we're getting some really cool stuff leading up to only being a month away, less than a month away from the movie now. So
Wow, I can't believe it.
It's an exciting time. So speaking of the movie being less than a month away, tickets are on sale seemingly everywhere. You'd have to check your local theater, but my local theater has tickets. I'm going Thursday night at 7. And if you have an AMC around you, you can see it on Tuesday, November 13th. So you can see it even earlier. I do not have an AMC around me. Do you guys?
I do. That's pretty crazy though, because like that's normally reserved for. I mean, that early is normally reserved for like press screenings and things like that. So I don't know as far as like box office numbers how this is going to help them. Because normally, like, doesn't the weekend start on a Wednesday and stuff like that? Like that's how they kind of gauge it. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I do have an AMC in my area, and I am planning on going to see the movie Tuesday, November 13th.
Yeah, I've got them around here, but I'm like we've mentioned earlier, I'm holding off 2 weeks to go see it in LA instead of in St. Louis. So,
ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, we've got AMC's around here, but alas, I too am holding out for a special visitor.
You're not even going to take advantage of it. It's fine.
Fine.
Do you know what I will be seeing on November 13th? Josh Groban with Idina Menzel, and I'm pretty excited about it. Anyway, next in the news.
In other news.
In other news about Josh Groban, you should watch his new Netflix show. All right, that's enough. Cursed Child San Francisco has called a casting call. It's open to actors of all ethnicities, ages 8 and older. The auditions were October 16th through 18th in Berkeley, and rehearsals will begin next summer ahead of the fall 2019 opening. So as of recording and release, these castings have already happened. So hopefully some people went and it was exciting. But we thought we'd mention it because it's fun and gives us an idea of when things are getting going for that. And also, Bailey, I hear you have some information on potential Cursed Child in LA.
Yeah, so about 2 weeks ago, I was going through my email and I am subscribed to a few random casting websites for different things out here just to keep an eye on what's coming out, sort of. And I got an email that Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is casting LA actors for all roles. So potentially breaking news that Cursed Child is coming to Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's real interesting. We, from the onset of it opening in New York City, we kind of complained that it wasn't on the West Coast, where other people could enjoy it. And then California said, here, hold my kale/latte shake. And they said, we're going to do 2 shows. One in San Francisco and one in Los Angeles. But yeah, that's really interesting. And I don't think anybody's picked up on it yet. And I think Warner Brothers and the people behind the Cursed Child Productions are really keeping this on the down low. So yeah, potential breaking news here.
So this is a topic I don't know a whole lot about, so I'm just going to ask some dumb people questions. So like the fact that they're having set up for the New York show, the San Francisco show, and the LA show, are those going to run simultaneously for an extended period of time, or does it not run simultaneously? What do we think on that?
Potentially. Yeah. I mean, Hamilton did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I think it will run simultaneously.
Yeah, because we have the one still going on in London. We have New York, we'll have San Francisco, we'll have LA. There's one in Australia, I believe, that's set to kick off hopefully soon.
My next question would be, do the avid play-goers feel cheated or gypped that it's not any of the original cast at all? I mean, or is it really just, hey, the show is the show outside of the people on stage specifically doing it? I mean, it's a little bit new world for me, so I'm just asking questions.
I think it's the show because you didn't see any complaints about that with Hamilton. And even musicals and plays have been touring forever. And people still go see the touring companies. I am a member at my local theater and I see the touring company. And it's never a thought of, oh man, I wish I was seeing the original cast. That could be like a little thought, but the majority of what you're thinking is, wow, it's so great to see this and to not have to spend a ton of money or drive really far to get there. So the accessibility of it is a huge thing because people in California are typically not flying to New York City to see a show. So accessibility is a big deal.
I think that's a big piece of it. I also think that since this was the medium in which it was intended, intended to be seen, I don't think people are going to have a problem with seeing a different Harry or a different Ron or a different Hermione if they go and see these plays in the different locations. It's the same story. It's going to be the same kind of, maybe like the same kind of acting, but there isn't going to be much change.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything, if it is in fact coming to Los Angeles, I will probably try and see it in San Francisco and LA just to get a gauge of how it differs from location to location. But
yeah, and one of these times, whenever I'm in London, maybe third time's a charm. I don't know. I'll hopefully get to see it. And then actually, I am going to see it in New York next year. So that'll be interesting to see how that differs, how it differs from, our version of Broadway versus the UK's version of Broadway. And then maybe, hopefully, I don't know, maybe I'll make it out to the West Coast one of these days and see how that differs. So like I said, I mean, it's going to be the same story, same way it's going to be told, same production value, I would assume. Same consistency with all that.
So, pretty big news, Fantastic Beasts-wise. Johnny Depp had his first interview about Grindelwald. Did you guys read this interview?
Yeah, I did.
It's pretty fascinating.
I am right now.
He is a fascinating character actor. Regardless of what you want to say about him, about his off-screen troubles, his craft, he knows his craft very well, and he knows how to get in the head and understand his characters that he plays.
Yeah, so I wanted to just share a couple things from this interview because he said some interesting stuff. So they asked him what initially drew you to playing Grindelwald, and he said, "I found the character fascinating and complex. My instinct reaction is he was like a human version of Finnegan's Wake. James Joyce's novel begins and ends in the middle of a sentence. You come in mid-thought, and then it's a very confusing ride." I like the sound of that.
I haven't heard Finnegan's Wake. I haven't. Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing of Finnegan's Wake.
It's a bit of an obscure reference.
Yeah, it is. I mean, what he should have just said, "Oh, it's like coming into an interview and then leaving in mid, and then just leave."
Really push that point home.
Yeah,
they're like, "Whoa, that was weird." So they also asked him about how it kind of differed because in the first film, Colin Farrell is playing Grindelwald as Graves. So they asked if his performance influenced anything for Johnny Depp, and he said it does and it doesn't. As Grindelwald was pretending to be Graves, his responsibility is to portray Graves. I suppose the more contemplative moments of Collins, the more silent moments, for me, that's when I would see bits of Grindelwald.
That's a bit confusing for me.
I feel like their question didn't make that much sense because he's right. It's Grindelwald disguised as Graves, so Colin Farrell was being Graves.
Right.
So now I don't think we're going to see anything that will kind of harken back to. I don't think anything about Johnny Depp is going to remind us of Colin Farrell as Graves.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I can see is maybe the influence of Grindelwald, like how he influenced Credence. We're going to see that on a much larger scale in Crimes of Grindelwald.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think he's going to do a Barty Crouch Jr. tongue thing to make sure that we realize it's the same guy?
No, not the tongue thing. Maybe a weird blink from that eye or something, but I don't know.
Yeah, speaking of the eye, so they apparently they don't say who, but they said one of the co-stars referred to it as a scary eye. And they asked, is that of a backstory or is that just creepy? And he said, it's a character choice. I saw Grindelwald as more than one, if you know what I mean. I almost felt like he's maybe two people. He's twins in one body. So a gamey eye is more like the other side of him, sort of like a brain for each eye, an albino twin, and he's somewhere in the middle. This whole quote, I have no idea what he's talking about. Can you guys make heads or tails of that?
I can.
It's like he's bipolar.
He's like, okay,
Split
so
personalities.
no, maybe this is like an internal struggle. I don't know why, but this was actually clear to me. it's like the internal struggle that he's having. You know, he still, on one hand, he still loves Dumbledore, but he knows he has to go up against him. He knows that maybe Dumbledore is right, but he feels like he's gone too far. He can't turn back. You know, he's gone to the dark side. He can't just Anakin it back. So, I mean, this totally made sense to me, and I love that it was a character choice. I wonder if he made that choice. He said it's a character choice, sure, but I wonder if he specifically made that choice as he was getting into the character and starting to understand Grindelwald. He's like, wait, there's this struggle happening, and you know, it just kind of added that aesthetic.
Well, and we don't see it with young Grindelwald, so I don't really understand the backstory of it.
Maybe
I think that's what he's getting at. Is it's one, probably what Terrance is saying. It's a character actor choice to do this as he's developed over time. So it's also the character himself choosing to do this to himself for some specific reason is kind of how I see it. He's
like a
there's
tattoo.
some kind of conflict that, yeah, kind of like a tattoo, or like Voldemort changing his appearance over time with magical experimentation on himself is kind of a similarity I see with it.
That was funny. Sorry.
I'll mute myself. I'll be back later.
Yeah, that makes sense. So they also asked him about Dumbledore's sexuality and how no one's really talking about Grindelwald's sexuality. They said, what's your take on your character's sexuality and how much of that is apparent in the portrayal? He said, I think it should be left up to the audience to feel it first. And when the time comes, it makes the situation with Dumbledore all the more intense. I think there's a jealousy with Scamander. He sees Scamander as Dumbledore's protege, his boy in a way. That in itself is enough for Grindelwald to want to take Scamander down in a way that is ferocious and eternal.
Ooh, jealousy. That's the way I see that. Yeah.
I love that idea that Grindelwald's kind of like, ugh, that Newt. Dumbledore loves him.
Oh my
I like
goodness.
that jealousy.
I've never thought of that before. You know, that Grindelwald sees it like that. That is so interesting. I also think it's a brilliant answer from Johnny Depp on this issue. He says, I think it should be left up to the audience to feel it first. And feel is italicized in this interview because it's emphasized whenever he talks about it. You know, this community wants it so bad that, you know, we kind of lit the whole fandom on fire like a few months ago whenever David Yates kind of put his foot in his mouth. But I think that he has the right approach to this, saying that you have to feel it out first. You have to see how things are, how it's going to play out. And then whenever the time comes, it's just going to make everything, you know, amplified.
Yeah, I feel like now that the last trailer we've had has made it a little bit clearer as to some of the assumptions that were made and kind of filling in some of the blanks, if you will. I feel like the PR for Johnny Depp here is a little bit easier than it was on Yates, just because I feel like Yates was probably kind of backed into a corner and just wasn't ready because the trailers weren't ready and he wasn't sure what he could say, and he just botched it at that point pretty badly.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit easier for Johnny Depp here to be like, yeah, I mean, feel it out. Like, that's probably going to be the way to go. And I feel like that's probably what Yates should have said months ago. Like, just watch the damn movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I will say one more comment on the eye. I mean, come on, J.K. Rowling's Twitter picture right now. She's got that going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
I mean, it's probably the same thing pretty much, right?
Joe and Grindelwald. Ooh, I can't see it.
Now the conspiracy theories can start.
Can't even see it in my mind. I don't even know how that would play out.
J.K. is Grindelwald.
J.K.
There we go.
J.K. Grindel rolling. I'm just J.K.ing, y'all. J.K.
So the last bit of this interview, they asked him if there was anything he wanted to say to the fans, and he said a couple things. I feel like the main thing as an actor is your loyalty. It's my job to enforce the author's vision and also be true to the director's vision. And then there's being true to my vision. It's a major responsibility being handed the keys to this car. My intense loyalty is not just to J.K. and David Yates, but to the people who go and see the films as well. The people who have invested their lives into this magnificent, incredible world J.K. has created. I went full tilt and head first into the character, knowing the responsibility that I had. It's good to take the audience on a ride they're not necessarily expecting, yet with great respect to the world they've come to understand and know. The Potter fans are like scholars of this stuff, which I find incredibly impressive. They know that world inside and out. I hope to give them something they haven't seen before.
Golly, that's an amazing response, and it frustrates me how good of a response that is because it almost feels
It's a
coached.
great quote.
It really does feel coached, like a coached response. But at the same time, like I said at the top of the story, he's very intense with his characters. He understands the magnitude and the responsibility of being handed the role of Jack Sparrow, right, and of Willy Wonka and of Gellert Grindelwald, and what those characters represent. And I'm really excited to see what he's gonna do with Grindelwald.
I will say, for pure acting talent alone, nothing else about him, not commenting on anything else other than straight acting ability, I really trust him with a character like this to actually do it justice and to do the due diligence to know, the everything that the fans know, and then take any new information that he has and work it in. And like he says, he has to be loyal to the author and the director's vision, but his own, and with what they're trying to do with it, and keeping this, which he's clearly talking about our podcast, right? These scholars of of fans. I mean, it's just I trust him acting wise for this role.
So there was new footage released. It's about 2 minutes long, and it's got kind of like extensions of scenes that we've already seen, and it's also interspersed with footage of J.K. Rowling speaking and other actors speaking. So this is a really awesome clip if people haven't seen it. It's called The Adventure Continues, and it really focuses on Credence. So Credence says, "I want to know who I am," and we kind of learn that everyone is in Paris because of Credence. And that scene where Dumbledore gives Newt the postcard and mentions a safe house, we got another bit of that scene, and he tells Newt, "Credence may not know who he is yet, but he needs to be found." And in this clip, J.K. Rowling says, "Things are becoming much more dark and complicated, and people's allegiances are now being exposed. Whatever you think you know at the end of the movie might not be the case." What do you guys think about this new information we're getting?
It just makes Credence so much more complicated. I mean, he's such a different kind of character that we've never seen before in this wizarding world, in this entire franchise. I just don't know how to even begin to unpack him and understand him. I think we definitely need more context behind what he's actually doing in this movie to be able to discuss it further. At least that's the way I feel about it.
I don't know. I feel like the Credence part of this is one that we've, in our trailer rewatches, kind of skimmed over because we're so distracted by everything else. But like thinking of where the last movie ends off, that's a big part of the whole first movie of trying to figure out, okay, what is this issue? And then you find out it's Credence, and then we try to reason with it, and it kind of almost worked, and then he bounces, right? So I mean, it seems like for knowing how destructive the Obscurus is, yeah, that's going to be a pretty major part of figuring out where he went. And obviously, I mean, just having Grindelwald here as clearly is also a really, really big distraction to that. So it's kind of, we haven't focused on that very much, but I'm not surprised at all to know that, hey, they're basically going after trying to find him. And we've seen that with some of the clips. It seems like, they're just behind him in the sewer scene where we see his wall markings. That, I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see if they find him and if he's in a good spot when the quote-unquote good guys and or bad guys get a hold of him.
Yeah, I will say this about Credence. I think from a magical kind of ability, we should be very worried about him. We should be very scared of him, more so than we are scared of Grindelwald. Grindelwald's got a different kind of ability, even though he's a very powerful wizard with magic. He's very powerful with influence, and Credence is just powerful with whatever the hell it is that he has, the Obscurus. So I think that with no sense of control. So I think that's what makes his character is going to make his character more frightening.
That's it for the news.
Okay, our discussion this week, you know how we've been doing the Dumbledore's Army character analysis? Well, as we come closer to the Fantastic Beasts movies, we're going to pick a few characters out of the Fantastic Beasts series so far. We're not going to go through all of them because that would just really take forever. But we're going to go through a few of the big ones. And we're going to start today with Newt Scamander. So you guys are you guys ready to talk Newt?
Yep.
You know, Newt isn't his full name. His full name is Newton Artemis Fido Newt Scamander.
Great name.
Yeah, I'd go
That's
you.
why are names in the wizarding world like so damn long? Like we've got Albus, Percival, Wulfric, Brian, Dumbledore. Like seriously, that does not fit on a social security card. I'm sorry.
There's somewhere I've read, I don't know if it's on Pottermore, but it discusses I think it's in one of the Pottermore Presents short books. It talks about wizard family names and why some of them are like really extravagant and why some of them are just kind of like, oh, Ron Weasley, Harry Potter, like as opposed to, yeah, I mean, Aberforth, I'm sure he's got 4 middle names, Dumbledore. And
that is actually his middle name. Aberforth, I'm sure he's got 4 middle names, Dumbledore.
Yeah, I was reading that from the website. I knew that was it. But I'll have to find that and I'll dig that back up. But there's a really good article somewhere about why some are so extravagant as well.
Very interesting. Well, Newt Scamander was born February 24th, 1897 in England. We don't know exactly where. His blood status is half-blood or pure blood. It just really hasn't been mentioned yet. I would guess he's a pure blood. That would be my major takeaway from his blood status. Currently, he is married. We'll get to that here in just a bit. He does go by Newt, just Newt, not Newton. All of his 4 names, Scamander. He is a magizoologist. He's pretty tall. He's 6'2".
He's referenced as 6'2". Eddie Redmayne, 6
6
foot.
foot.
6
I looked
foot.
it up too.
I guess I was going to ask the question: is he 6 foot, or is Eddie Redmayne 6'2", or is Eddie Redmayne 6'2"? But clearly, this is a character thing, not
Newt
a
is taller. Yeah.
right. Eddie plays taller, right? You know, on screen.
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure with the shoes that he has on, it makes him 6'2", maybe 6'2" and a half. Yeah.
With the briefcase.
With the briefcase, right? Can you imagine him just like, I don't know, going to the doctor's office or something and it's like, oh, you shrank from the last time I saw you. He goes, hang on, let me get my suitcase. And he goes to stand on it. I can totally see Newt doing something like that.
I also have like questions of like, where does the 6'2", like, where does that come from? Is that like just someone like she went through or someone at Pottermore went through and was like, okay, we're going to do all these and she just okays them? Because it's not in the about the author of Fantastic Beasts. Trust me.
I think it was just
Doesn't say his height. Ugh, shocking.
just additional information provided by Joe, I'm sure.
6'2", 170. Right there. Oh, weird. Wears a size 10.5 shoe.
Newt Scamander hails from.
In the blue corner.
Coming in at 6'2" with a briefcase.
With the briefcase. A reach of 74 inches plus briefcase, another 14.
Newton Artemis Fido Scamander.
The crowd goes wild.
So some family information. Mrs. Scamander, we don't know her first name, is his mother. Theseus is his brother. Not going to talk about his wife yet, because we'll get to that in a little bit. His son, he does have a son. He also has a grandson, Rolf Scamander. A daughter-in-law, Luna Lovegood. Lorcan is his great-grandson. Lysander is great-grandson, and the Scamander family. His Boggart is an office job, and we don't know the makeup of his wand yet, which would be interesting to know. He does work in the Beast Division of the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures, and he's also an author in his later years. He is loyal to Hufflepuff House, the Scamander family, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Albus Dumbledore, the Ministry of Magic, and the Order of Merlin. A couple of fun facts about Newt. His physical description is, he was a tall, thin wizard with tousled brown hair and blue eyes. His usual attire included a blue coat, brown vest, white shirt, bow tie, dark brown pants, and brown boots. And towards the end, a scarf with colors resembling Hufflepuff colors. His personality and traits. He was a dedicated individual who tirelessly researched new information for his book, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, even when he was supposedly retired. Considered an authority in the field of magizoology, his works were respected throughout the wizarding community. Newt was described as eccentric and felt more comfortable around certain creatures than he did humans. He admitted that most people found him annoying. I don't see that. I don't see that at all with Newt. What I see is, like I said, I see a very timid, go about his own business. He doesn't bother other people. He doesn't try to bother other people. It's just, completely the opposite of eccentric.
You don't see that at all? I feel like he's a little bit timid, but once you get him on his passion, his passion is a bit eccentric in the wizarding world. We see how frowned upon what he does in the United States is. It's essentially outlawed by MACUSA. And so, by nature, what he does is considered eccentric. But, I don't know, he's quirky, which I think is maybe what they're getting at. And that can definitely rub people the wrong way if you're not familiar with him. It can be, tedious to be around somebody who's really quirky at times, because sometimes you don't know if they're picking fun at you or if they're weird or what. So I think that may be kind of what it's getting at describing.
Okay, I can maybe see that. The quote from Dumbledore that we learned in this past set of trailers: "If you'd ever taught him, you know that Newt is not a great follower of orders. A man of principle, he was not the sort of man to discriminate against people based on their heritage or beliefs. He was also seen to be courteous with non-magical individuals like Mary Lou Barebone and Jacob Kowalski, the latter of which he formed a close relationship. He was also morally astute, expressing shock and discontent at morbidness and cruelty, such as the idea of using the obscurus that killed a child for personal gain. Despite this, Newt himself admitted that he showed poor judgment in his youth. As an example is when he brought his Thunderbird to the United States to set him free, let alone the entire suitcase full of magical creatures, given MACUSA's cursed kill policy at the time on such creatures." So, what I get from Newt, and this is kind of why I don't. This is kind of why, not that I don't like him, but where I see a serious issue. He is, the very first sentence, a man of principle. He was not the sort of man to discriminate against people based on their heritage or beliefs or magical ability, for that matter. And I think that's going to get him into trouble, because what is that quote in the trailer that he says? He kind of wants to stay out of everything. He doesn't want to be a part of the fight, but yet he's a part of the fight. Sides. Yeah, there you go. Oh, thanks, Newt. Appreciate that.
No problem. It's me,
Only entrees.
John Lennon.
Only entrees, that's right.
That's right. That kind of bothers me a little bit, because obviously Grindelwald's in the wrong. Well, why not pick a side? Why not be against what he stands for? Why do you have to wait until it involves you to get involved?
See, I don't see that comment as being I don't choose between good and evil. I think it's I always choose what's right. And I don't care if that's Dumbledore's side or if it's Grindelwald's side. I'm going to choose the right side.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree as well.
Mm-hmm. So his magical skills and abilities. His primary skill was his deep connection to multiple magical creatures and the ability to track them down and tame them effectively. He was also a well-versed writer and a tireless worker, making dozens of notes on every creature that he finds. Newt also dealt with hazardous situations well, having faced some of the most dangerous beasts in the world, as well as dark wizards. So for care of magical creatures, he is interested in magizoology. I don't know why I'm referring to him in past tense, because according to Pottermore, he's still alive. So he is interested in magizoology from a young age, and throughout the years, he gained knowledge of a wide variety of creatures from all over the world. He was awarded a famous wizard card and an Order of Merlin for services to magizoology. He was shown to have a particular way with animals in a manner most wizards do not. He possesses the innate ability to communicate and bond with beasts of all shapes, such as thunderbirds and bowtruckles, treating the latter much like a parent would a child. He is also capable of using beasts such as the swooping evil to aid him in combat, and can control it to a degree, despite it being a relatively dangerous beast. So he reminds me of like a trainer. Like, I don't know why I'm thinking a whale trainer right now, because, you know, they're not afraid to jump in the water with the animals and really get up close and personal and intimate with these very dangerous creatures. That's, you know, like I said, that's what kind of Newt reminds me of. It's very hazardous.
I think of Newt as like a Disney princess.
What?
He's got his animal sidekicks. He just has more than any other princess.
He is just like a Disney princess. You're right. You know, that's
right.
Nice job, Gretchen. You solved it.
Thank you. I did it. That's his biography.
Da 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 da.
I'm here for it.
He does have the ability to apparate, which he, in many different situations, allowing him to avoid attacks from like Obscurus or Grindelwald. He's very gifted in charms as well. He is able to summon an egg from across the room with a man still holding on to it, as we saw, and repair the entire upper half of Kowalski's apartment in mere seconds. That was really impressive. He also used the Revelio charm to bypass Grindelwald's human transfiguration. Aha. Reminds me of, like, at the end of Scooby-Doo, where they pull the mask off of him. He also performed an expansive, undetectable extension charm on the interior of his suitcase, creating enough space to hold many magical creatures in replicas of their native habitats. He also displayed a command of atmospheric charms, creating weather conditions such as hot deserts and frozen snowscapes. Furthermore, his skill with charms allowed him to create a magical bubble capable of containing and sustaining an Obscurus, even after the death of its host. Very gifted with charms. A couple more things that he was gifted at. Wand lore. Many people might not know this, but he has some knowledge of the properties of wand cores, including Thunderbird tail feathers. He's gifted in history of magic as well. Newt also had knowledge of magical history. Like the whole chapter of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was devoted to definitions of beasts and beings and spirits and how definitions have evolved in past centuries. Very, very elaborate. And last but not least, potions. So in his books, he wrote down hints of how parts of magical creatures could be used in potions. He also experimented with novel potions such as uses for swooping evil venom. I'm not quite sure I fully understand this. He wrote down hints how parts of magical creatures could be used in potions. How did he know that without practical application?
I think that's exactly how he knew it. He tested that stuff, experimented.
He would cut up his beasts?
No,
Maybe.
like tears or like
Oh,
blood,
okay.
Hair,
Feather.
nose hairs,
nose hairs.
I'm thinking like
claws.
bow truckles. Just throw a bow truckle in a cauldron.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's horrible.
I know. That's why I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he would do something like that.
He drives around in the Dragon Red Cross, donate your dragon blood van. And so That makes sense.
Yeah.
Before beginning education at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry in 1908, Newt purchased his first wand, likely from Ollivanders, and was sorted into Hufflepuff on the 1st of September. During his time there, he enjoyed studying magical creatures. At some point in his education, he looked after an injured raven chick. He developed a friendship with Lita Lestrange, a fellow student who shared both his interest in magical beasts as well as his feeling of being an outsider.
So we actually saw this in these pictures that were released last week, and it had Lita revisiting Hogwarts and revisiting her old desk. I showed her lifting up the desk in one of these pictures, and it had L plus J. Oh, L plus N. Or L and N.
Plot twist.
Sorry.
L plus J.
I know. I was like,
Lita and James, what up?
Hey, ooh.
Whoa.
Lily and James, way before their time.
Somebody knew.
It was Lita. She's a huge fangirl.
But it made me wonder, wow, was there like a potential romantic relationship that had gone wrong? And that Newt only really cared for his animals, and
from his reaction in the first movie to when she gets brought up, I would say absolutely. It seemed like it was definitely some kind of romantic entanglement, at least. I mean, or something else, but that's what it seems on the surface to be to me.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
There's definitely something there.
How could a Lestrange feel like an outsider? Aren't they supposed to be like full of money and history and like influence and power? And like I'm thinking like she should have had like two cronies like Crabbe and Goyle's ancestors or something like that around her at all times.
I mean, that's like saying just because you're rich and powerful and have everything you could possibly want, you can't be depressed.
Well, yeah, no, I know that. Okay, well, yeah, that's exactly like saying
It's like that Britney Spears song. She's a lucky, she's a star.
She
cry, a lonely heart thinking. That song's about Lita.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It always was, yeah.
Yeah, little known
Always,
fact.
period. Yeah.
JK and Brittany teamed up.
My example was going to be like Regulus Black. He felt like he was a bit of an outsider for a while when he was younger, just tried to fit in and then ended up doing that. But this was Lita when she's young as well. Maybe she just hasn't found her place.
That's true.
They're kids. Kids are kids.
Well, and who knows? Maybe it's like a serious Black situation where she really doesn't fit in with her family.
Yeah, that could definitely be true.
Mm-hmm.
So, some potential spoilers for our upcoming film here, but in 1913, one of Lita's experiments involving a Jarvey went too far, endangering the life of another student. It also violated laws prohibiting the possession of this creature. Rather than seeing his good friend expelled, Newt took the blame for Lita's actions and thus was sentenced to be expelled from Hogwarts in her place. This left Newt bitter, but still much in love with Lita.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, he was in love with her. And love makes you do stupid things like taking the place of somebody that's really in deep trouble and being potentially expelled. That is horrible. That's horrible. I love you guys, but I sure as hell wouldn't, like, if we're facing this situation, I wouldn't give my slot of Hogwarts up.
No, me neither. But I'm really curious what Lita's experiment was, and I also don't really understand what they mean by experiment, but I looked up what a Jarvey is, and basically it's a ferret that yells mean things at you.
If you can see my screen, hopefully it's showing up decently, but...
Yeah.
It's that, and
That's
it just
adorable.
says, like, hey, idiot! It just yells mean things to you, which is hysterical. And I really want to... I hope we see this in
That
Crimes of Grindelwald.
Sounds like my favorite kind of pet. Can I please have 12?
I'll take a
The
Baker.
entry is is really, really short, so I'm gonna read it real quick just so we can have it the true from Newt's words what a Jarvie is. Ministry of Magic classification 3X. The Jarvie is found in Britain, Ireland, and North America. It resembles an overgrown ferret in most respects, except for the fact that it can talk. True conversation, however, is beyond the wit of the Jarvie, which tends to confine itself to short and often rude phrases in an almost constant stream. Jarvies live mostly below ground where they pursue gnomes, though they will also eat moles, rats, and voles. So yeah, they sound like a great pet to have at school.
They also wear little red hats that say make the ministry great again. These sound funny. I'll take a baker's dozen, please.
Whoa, go big.
Yeah, that's how we do it. A Jarvie. Jarvie. Jar. Yeah, I mean, okay, so it really bothered me that Newt would take the place of Lita, and take responsibility. Yeah, exactly. You know,
Maybe she didn't know that he let her.
Well,
that he did it.
I get that love makes you do stupid things, but love should also prevent you from allowing somebody to do that unless you really didn't love him.
For you.
Unless you really didn't love him. She was just using him for whatever.
And again, they're kids, they're pretty young when this happens, as far as we can tell. So definitely not the most responsible or mature. I mean, she could easily be afraid and like, oh, you want to do this for me? Cool, because I would rather keep going to school. And he's a dumb kid in love. And I don't know. They're kids.
What did she say? You've never met a monster that you couldn't love?
Maybe
something
she's
like
one.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe she's one of them. Yeah.
However, Albus Dumbledore, Newt's teacher at the time, argued strongly on his behalf. It is unclear whether the expulsion was enforced or not, or if it was temporary or permanent. However, he was allowed to keep his wand.
So whenever I think expulsion like Dunzo, like you're that's it. You can't go back.
I don't know if the Britishisms are slightly different on temporary expulsion or because we have, suspension here is what we would call it if it was a temporary thing.
Yeah.
Expulsion, typically around in these parts, expulsion means you're out of here.
Well, I sure does.
Gone get.
Yo, now, yo. That's a bad word there. Like my dad used to say that where like whenever dogs run out in his yard, he used to run out of the porch and holler like, yo, now, yo. We have no idea how you spell it, but it works, by God.
Yawn, ow, yaw.
And if that one word...
It makes me wonder what the captions are like on a old Western movie.
Like
it just says speaking Western.
Like it's a dialect or something. I wonder how Boomhowers comes up on closed caption.
Oh man, King of the Hill.
And that dang old bird there, man, that Albert Dumbledore, man, he's a powerful wizard. And Newt Scamander, he's just a powerful man to do all just something with animals, man. He's just going 9 miles an hour and he's keeping his wand and doing wand thing. He got expelled, man. And he's out of here.
That's pretty close.
Yeah,
pretty close.
yeah.
We'll see what the YouTube does for closed captioning on you there, and that might be a good tell. So let's talk about Newt's Ministry of Magic. Sometime during the First World War, from 1914 to 1918, Scamander served on the Eastern Front in a confidential Ministry of Magic program to wrangle Ukrainian iron bellies. The program was ultimately canceled as the dragons only responded to Scamander and tried to eat everyone else.
Sounds successful.
Newt's like, I got this, guys. All right, everybody else go. Okay, there's nobody left, but still, that's cool.
And we know we're going to get some, at least flashbacks to World War I stuff, right? We saw the planes fly over at one point in the trailer. So we're going to get some kind of, I don't know, maybe it's from Theseus's side, but it could also be from Newt's side.
Right.
Or it could be both. They could be working together a bit. We don't really know the delineation there much, but
I think in the video that had the new Credence information, it also had a bit more of that shot with the planes, where you're getting more people in it. So you do see Newt, I'm pretty sure.
Awesome. awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that for sure. Scamander joined the Ministry of Magic's Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures. He spent 2 years in the Office of House Elf Relocation before transferring to the Beast Division, where his extensive knowledge in magical creatures led to a rapid series of promotions, propelling him forward as a magizoologist, a career with which the Scamander family are not very impressed. In 1918, Augustus Worm of Obscurus Books commissioned Scamanders to write the first edition of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. As a lowly ministry employee earning only 2 sickles a week at the time, Scamander jumped at the chance for the extra money and the opportunity to spend his summers traveling the world. Scamander traveled to 100 countries across 5 continents researching his book, observing many magical creatures. He learned about their abilities, gained their trust, and occasionally beat them with his traveling kettle if they got too dangerous. At one point, he met an Obscurial in Sudan, and although the host died, he managed to contain her Obscurus within his magically expanded suitcase. I know we haven't really talked a whole lot about that line in the first movie. I find that to be really, really interesting that the Obscurus itself can be parted from the host body. Like, it's not just a transformed version of the host. It's something else, like its own entity. I find that fascinating.
So I'm going to ask a dumb question here, but is that what Credence is?
Credence is an Obscurus, yes.
So it could... So whenever it parts from your body, does the host die, or can it just part from the body like a spirit or something, like a dark spirit leaving your body, and it just leaves you as you were before?
Great question. I think that's going to be a major plot point to this story upcoming, because I feel like they're really going to try to get the Obscurus out of Credence without killing him. I feel like that's what Newt tried to do last time and was unsuccessful for whatever reason, which will probably be more expanded upon during the course of these movies. But we know that he tried to basically save the host at the time, and it didn't work out. So I feel like that's going to be a pretty major portion of what happened. The only other Obscurus we know of is Ariana Dumbledore. And yeah, a lot of fun topics.
So what I want to know is whenever the Obscurus is occupying the host, and let's say they occupy him at a very young age, and this host essentially continues to grow with this Obscurial or Obscurus inside of them. Like, what happens whenever that Obscurus leaves the host body, and let's say you do survive? It's like you time jumped almost, and you're now an adult, and the last thing you remember is whenever you were like 5 years old, and let's say you got hit in the face with something. That's your last memory.
I don't think it's their full consciousness taken over. I think it's when we see Credence walking around, that's Credence. That's normal Credence that also has this Obscurus living within him that erupts at times and takes full form over him, using his magical power in a very destructive way. So that's where it's kind of, if you can separate it out, Credence wants to do the right thing as far as I can tell, but he just can't control this other portion that's taken residence in him, so I think this is something that the term Obscurial is the host. The host is the Obscurial, the Obscurus is the spirit.
Okay.
Or whatever this thing is. So with it being two separate things, I just made this connection of that's why there are two terms. The Obscurus is the actual demonic possession, whatever this rage magical experience is. The Obscurial is the host, is Credence, is Ariana.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how all of this is going to be explained, and if it is even explained in the next movie. Maybe the way that J.K. Rowling's given it to us is just a piece at a time, which, would kind of make sense. You have the final showdown with Credence, and then in the final movie, you have the final showdown with Grindelwald. So that could be what all this is building up to. What I really want to know, why Newt Scamander didn't Instagram all of his travels. Inscamam. I tried to play on words, it failed.
But can you imagine what a Wizarding World's version of Instagram would be like?
I actually can't.
I mean,
I
it's
think it
moving
would be
pictures,
cool.
right?
It's a moving picture. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I think
Yeah.
they would. Well, we know that technology doesn't work in Hogwarts grounds, so the kids wouldn't have access to it at least.
Very
so you know
true.
it'd be really boring if it's only old people on there.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the only people outside of Hogwarts are old people.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this podcast 50 years from now, we're sorry for alienating you.
Right, because you probably have no idea what Instagram is.
Right, exactly.
And yet you still listen to standard MP3 podcasts. So that's cool.
So, moving on to New York. Newt began a year-long trip to document magical creatures in their natural habitats in 1925. After leaving Equatorial Guinea, Scamander arrived in New York on the 6th of December, 1926, for what was supposed to be a brief stopover. However, when Jacob Kowalski, a muggle, accidentally opened his suitcase, several creatures escaped, and the episode turned into an incident of major proportions, as magical and non-magical relations in the United States were already frail, due in part to the presence of a muggle fanatical extremist group, the New Salem Philanthropic Society. Containing the incident required the intervention of the Magical Congress of the United States of America. While in New York, Scamander also met Tina Goldstein, as well as her sister Queenie. During the quest to recover his escaped creatures, Newt had to confront another Obscurus. This Obscurus was particularly powerful and originated from Credence Barebone, but it was supposedly vanquished by McCusa Aurors. On the morning of the 8th of December, he helped to capture Percival Graves and revealed that he was none other than famous dark wizard and international criminal Gellert Grindelwald. He helped prevent a wide-scale exposure of the wizarding world by employing the help of Frank the Thunderbird from his case to create a rain laced with swooping evil venom, whose obliviating properties erased the bad memories of the Muggle citizens of New York, including his friend Jacob Kowalski. Can I just say, when you watch the film, it does not feel like it's only 2 days from when Newt arrives in New York to when they capture Grindelwald.
Yeah, no, this is very true. It feels like a much longer time, and as it was, it feels like more drawn out throughout the movie. So yeah, like 2 days, no, nothing.
1 week later, on the 15th of December, Scamander bumped into Kowalski while he was on his way to his job at the Mortondale Canning Factory and switched suitcases with him, leaving him a collection of silver Occamy eggshells and a letter instructing him to use the shells as collateral for a bank loan to start his bakery. The next day, on the 16th of December, 1926, Scamander said goodbye to Tina and boarded a ship, but promised to deliver a copy of his book to her in person.
I'd like that.
So yeah, it's a real quick. I mean, that's a real quick rundown of really the first Fantastic Beasts film. Yeah,
we've seen it.
So thank you for that abbreviated version, Bailey. Appreciate that. Yeah, it definitely did not feel like 3 days at that point.
That's crazy. First published in 1927, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was a bestseller. It became an approved textbook at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and by the mid-1990s was in its 52nd edition. A launch party was held on March 19th at Flourish and Blotts. In 1927, Newt traveled to Paris to help defeat Gellert Grindelwald, when he was actually approached by Albus Dumbledore following Newt's part in the initial capture of Grindelwald in New York, from which he had later escaped. At some point before 1992, Scamander authored a children's anthology of monsters for younger readers.
Okay, big question here. December 16th, 1926, December 15th was whenever they defeated Grindelwald, right? Well, not defeated, but they captured Grindelwald. In 1927, his book is published. Obviously, his name would be all over the place, right, for helping capture Grindelwald. Would that springboard his success of Fantastic Beasts, you think?
Oh, undoubtedly. I mean, it's got to make him infamous in some way. He's the person who helped capture Grindelwald. I want to know what he has to talk about.
Oh, I was going to say,
Yes,
is Luke watching
absolutely.
the video again with his sound off?
It is playing, but no.
Oh.
I was quickly flipping through the about the author again to see if it was referenced that he had a hand in Grindelwald, but it does not.
Is that the 52nd edition, Luke?
This is
Is it a 51st, maybe?
this is the one of the 3 editions that I have. So
I mean, it might even be a later edition than that because that was by
That's true.
90 something, 92.
Yeah, we might have like the 56th edition now, the 60th.
Yeah.
How can you publish that many editions in less than like 70 years?
This says printed in China, number 137. So I don't know what that means, but
It's like a college textbook. There's a new edition every single year.
How does he have time for that?
Money.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe like there's a small amendment that's changed, you know.
He adds one.
Yeah, they discover a new beast. They
That's it.
discover a new trait about a beast.
Yeah, yeah.
with that, that's actually a really, really cool thing to bring up real quick while we have a second. So I do have 3 copies of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I have the original, little paperback version that you could get with Quidditch Through the Ages. Just recently, I got the hardcover Hogwarts Library 3-book edition as well. So those are cool. And also the illustrated edition. And I will tell you, they have added a bunch of beasts over time. A lot of them are the same. There have been changes made to some of them as well. And some of them are directly related to the film franchise, updating from the original book. So there you go.
And I could even imagine, like, Wizarding World-wise, you could release a new edition when maybe a creature gets downgraded in how dangerous it is.
Right.
Upgraded. So
Yeah, usually
sense.
very incremental changes within editions, unless something major has happened.
Oh, is it me now? Okay. So, spoilers, I guess I will warn you. I feel like most people already know these things, but if you've been avoiding any mention of Newt and you don't want to know things that will happen in Fantastic Beasts, maybe skip ahead a couple minutes. Later in his life, Newt married Tina Goldstein, and together they had at least one child who produced at least one grandson named Rolf. In 1947, Scamander was responsible for the inception of the Werewolf Register, and in 1965 created the ban on experimental breeding, which he considered his proudest moment. Scamander also worked extensively with the Dragon Research and Restraint Bureau, which led him on explorations all over the world, allowing him to collect information for new editions of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Oh, okay, there's that. Answered all our questions. In 1979, he was awarded the Order of Merlin second class for services to magizoology. He was also honored with a chocolate frog card named after him. By the beginning of the 1990s, he was retired and living in Dorset with his wife and their 3 pet Measles, Hoppy, Millie, and Mauler, but was known to study fire slugs in the Brazilian rainforest. At some point during the 1993 to 1994 school year, he visited Hogwarts, possibly to discuss the printing of a version of Fantastic Beasts for Muggle audiences. Following his grandson's marriage to Luna Lovegood, Scamander became the great-grandfather of twin boys, Lorcan and Lysander. In 2017, Scamander denied the rumors that he was sent to New York by his former teacher, Professor Dumbledore, to spy on the government there and find out any new information about Grindelwald's whereabouts. Scamander said he thought it was absurd that he would pose as a magizoologist to achieve that, but admitted it was a bad idea to take a suitcase of creatures to New York. Also in 2017, Newt was writing a foreword to a new edition of his book, in which he confirmed the public belief that he was indeed the first wizard ever to capture Gellert Grindelwald during his travel to New York in 1926. He played an active part in defeating Grindelwald over the next 2 decades. Newt was prevented from sharing any information between then and now, but the declassified documents were now beginning to be released, and he would be free to talk about them when they were. However, Newt added he would in fact become involved in the hunt for Grindelwald later, and that he played an actual part in that hunt over the next 2 decades.
Okay, so what I would like to know is since him and Dumbledore were really close, right? We didn't see Newt at Dumbledore's funeral, did we?
But we see it from Harry's point of view, so...
Yeah, I don't know if Harry would recognize him enough. And there were a ton of people there, we know.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So from the foreword by the author that was just referenced, it says, "It is true that I was the first person ever to capture Gellert Grindelwald, and also true that Albus Dumbledore was something more than a school teacher to me. More than this, I cannot say without fear of breaching the official Magical Secrets Act, or, more importantly, the confidences that Dumbledore, most private of men, placed in me." So that's an interesting take on a little bit more of their relationship, Newt and Albus.
Yeah, definitely. What I'm looking forward to the most in Crimes of Grindelwald is the further development of Newt. Like I said, I thought he was very timid. I mean, he knows his stuff, obviously, and we saw that in the first movie without a doubt. But I want to get to know Newt. I want to be, I wish that they could get intimate with Newt. Not intimate in that kind of way, but, I really wish that we could really pick him apart and understand his character more so on the screen. And I'm looking forward to exploring his relationships with, Lita and the ones that he has with Kowalski and, just all those different kind of friendships with Tina, and seeing if that goes anywhere, if that starts to blossom. Just really interested in learning more about him, because this is really just based off of information J.K. Rowling has given us and the first movie, and what very little information we had in the Harry Potter series.
One thing that I would be interested in seeing, which I don't think we're going to, but after the 1965 ban on experimental breeding, I would love to see a conversation between Newt Scamander and Hagrid for the Blast-Ended Scroots debacle.
Oh, I would love to just see him and Hagrid in any capacity.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
The other bit about that, I can't remember exactly what this is. Is the werewolf register a good thing? Is that something Lupin would have appreciated, or is that a bit of a bad thing? I don't remember the details of that.
That is very interesting, and that's the first time that I actually kind of remember it. Was whenever you mention it. It's like a registration. Remember the Muggle-born Registration Commission or whatever it was? Well, I think werewolves are so dangerous that they really have to keep track of them and who they are, and maybe cycles or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that, because I feel like that just continues to perpetuate stereotypes, and I'm surprised that was Newt's idea.
It almost reminds me of the National Sex Offender Registry.
Yeah,
it's you don't want to live in a neighborhood where there's a werewolf,
right? And they have to disclose to you that they live there, and yeah, it doesn't sound good to me. It doesn't sound like something that would be helpful to anyone.
It doesn't sound like something that would come from Newt either, honestly.
Right.
I wonder if it's actually voluntary, that information. You could sign up and you can receive some sort of certain benefit for signing up, but you don't have to sign up,
Yeah, I don't think it's a voluntary thing. As we know from Remus Lupin's father, Lyle Lupin, he was a part of that team as well. And basically Fenrir Greyback wasn't on the list. And he was able to evade prosecution for deaths of 2 Muggle children by pretending to be a Muggle tramp. And then basically Lupin's father thought it was prudent to keep Greyback until the next full moon to prove that he was a werewolf. And so it was basically due to that he was forced to be on the werewolf registry, that he went after Lyle Lupin, and that is why Remus Lupin was bit as retribution for that. So I don't think Fenrir wanted to be on this list.
Interesting. That is something I would like to explore in detail, possibly on a future episode. Well, that is Newt, ladies and gentlemen, Newt Scamander. And we will learn more about him in less than a month. Very exciting stuff. Let's move on to our final segment of the day, and this is something new we're doing on the show. It's two truths and a lie, and we're doing it kind of Harry Potter version. So Gretchen is going to kick us off with the first one.
All right, here we go. Number 1. In the French translation of the book, Tom Riddle's middle name is Elvis. Number 2. A puckwudgie is a tall, colorful, tree-like creature. And lastly, the story of the founding of Ilvermorny is bonkers. Which one's the lie?
Which one's the lie? Oh my god, this is so difficult.
I know.
Without Googling, guys, no Googling, no Yahooing, no Binging, no asking Jeeves.
I'm not even touching my computer.
No asking Siri, no personal assistants. Luke looks like he's being held hostage.
I'm showing my hands are nowhere near the computer.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the first one. In the French translation, Tom Riddle's middle name is Elvis. That would be the lie.
I'm gonna go with number 2 is the lie.
I am also going with number 2.
A Pukwudgie is a tall, colorful, tree-like creature.
Yes.
I don't think so.
You are correct. A Pukwudgie is not a tall, colorful, tree-like creature. It is a short, gray-faced, large-eared creature distantly related to the European goblin.
So wait, hang on. This means that, in fact, in the French translation, Tom Riddle's middle name is Elvis.
Yes.
Oh,
I thought I had heard that before.
My God.
That's comical.
Yes, that one's true. And then I found the story of the founding of Ilvermorny on Pottermore, and
That's
it's
crazy.
absolutely insane. And that's where I got the Pukwudgie thing from. And there's like a Pukwudgie named William who talks to this girl, and I can't even explain this story, so everyone should just go read it.
Okay, so here are mine. First one, Daniel Radcliffe read Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows while on set of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
Woohoo.
Number 2, Daniel Radcliffe mentioned how he would sometimes turn up for work half drunk. Number 3, he is known for losing his cigarette lighters and regularly asks fans if he can borrow one. Which one is the lie?
What?
Okay.
I was also really distracted by the 3 that you have written here, which
yeah.
you didn't
Which are
use.
not
I
the
love,
3 that you
I
told
love
us.
I love the third answer.
Yeah.
No, contrary to popular belief, Daniel Radcliffe's Patronus is not Daniel Radcliffe. It's Chuck Norris,
I
okay?
do find that hard to believe.
Oh,
It's Voldemort Elvis, okay?
Yeah.
All right. I am going to say that Daniel Radcliffe did not read Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows while on set for Deathly Hallows.
I'll go with the lighter one.
The lighter.
I'm
Okay.
going with the drunk one. I don't think he ever showed up to work drunk.
All right. Drum roll, please. The lie is Daniel Radcliffe read Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows while on set of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
Yippee! I knew the drunk one was true.
Yeah.
That's
I should have been
sad.
telling that was the only one that he actually had written here.
Yeah. Order of the Phoenix.
I mean, the drunk one was there.
Yeah.
Terrance changed it.
Gotcha.
He actually described himself as having an addictive personality and has said that he almost developed an alcohol addiction in 2009. So that was actually whenever he was filming Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah, I know he's talked
before
about
that.
if he watches it back, he can like specifically point out scenes he was drunk in and that he just looks dead in the eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Real rough. All right.
I'm
Who's
glad
next?
He turned his life around.
Me too.
All right.
Me too.
Yeah, absolutely. Good job, Dan.
Good job, Dan.
My turn. All right. So, option 1, the Fountain of Fair Fortune from the Tales of Beetle the Bard contained 3 witch sisters named Asha, Althea, and Amata. Number 2, the Peruvian viper tooth is the largest of all known dragons, reaching a length of 55 feet. And number 3, the Tuts Hill Tornadoes seeker, Roderick Plumpton, holds the British record for the fastest capture of a snitch during a game in 1921.
I'm going to go with the Peruvian
Perverted viper
the dragon.
That's
Yeah.
all, folks.
Yeah, right. I'm going to go with the dragon one. That's the lie. I want to say the horntail is the longest. I don't know.
I am also going to say the Peruvian viper tooth is the lie.
You know, I was going to pick that, but now that you both did, I'm going to pick the Fountain of Fair Fortune one.
It is, in fact, the Peruvian viper tooth.
Whoop,
Is
whoop.
actually
From a
the
different
smallest.
series.
No, it's in here. It's in the book. Trust me. It's in the whole dragons section. And the Peruvian viper tooth, this is the smallest of all known dragons. and the swiftest in flight, a mere 15 feet or so in length.
Wow.
I think the iron bellies are the largest.
Oh, okay. All right. Last one.
Alrighty. Number 1. The Demiguise is J.K. Rowling's favorite magical creature. Number 2, flu powder was invented in the 13th century. Or number 3, Tom Riddle is my father.
Well, I'm going to have to go with the obvious one, the flu powder. No, I'm just kidding. So, Tom Riddle is... Okay, Bailey, the results of the DNA test are in.
I was going to say, it sounds like Maury.
Yeah.
Maury Povich.
And Tom Riddle,
the results are in.
You are not the father.
I'm going to agree. I'm also surprised that JK's favorite is the orangutan-like Demiguise.
Yeah, the super cute Demiguise. Bailey, I don't know your dad's name, but I'm going to guess it's not Tom.
It is not Tom. It is Paul.
That makes sense.
Yeah, J.K. Rowling actually said that the Demiguise was her favorite because it could turn itself invisible at will.
Nice.
That's not surprising for how played up the invisibility cloak is.
All right. Well, that does wrap up today's show. We want to thank all of our patrons who do support us over at patreon.com. And you can support us over on patreon.com/Hogwarts Radio. Sign up today, get all those cool benefits. Like we mentioned, we're going to have some really cool stuff going out for our patrons starting next month. And it's just a, kind of a quick thank you from all of us. And also a thank you to those of you that are just really listening to the show. Even if you don't support us on Patreon, we really encourage you to share our episodes with your followers on social media and let other Harry Potter fans know what you think of our podcast. And as a reminder, you can stay up to date with us over on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Once again, I am Terrance Pinkston.
I'm Bailey Riddle.
I'm still Luke Hogan.
And I am Gretchen Rush.
She didn't sound sure about that. And
Sometimes, maybe.
Wait, maybe.
Today I am.
Oh.
Tomorrow I don't know.
Nope, she's going to be Gretchen not in a rush.
Gretchen.
That does it for episode 218. We'll be back next week with episode 219. Bye-bye.
You stay classy, Hogwarts.
That was bloody brilliant.
Codswallop.